Welcome back, everyone. So in our last explainer, we got pretty deep into the weeds with exactly what Claude can do inside Excel. We looked at separating the signal from the noise and pressure testing those complex analytical models. And look, it was incredibly powerful. But today we're zooming way, way out. If you've ever felt like your brain is just totally fragmented across a dozen open windows, well, this is going to be a real game changer for you. We're looking at the big picture and exploring the entire Claude for Microsoft 365 ecosystem. We're going to see exactly how Claude transforms from just a helpful little assistant isolated in one app into a continuous, shared digital brain across all of your daily applications. All right, let's take a quick look at the agenda for today. We've got 5 main stops. 1. Beyond Excel. 2. Morning routine. 3. Context and formatting. 4. Team skills. And finally, 5. Security and dictation. Let's dive right in. Starting right off with Section 1, Beyond Excel, eliminating the window shuffle. For the longest time, using AI basically meant you had to open up a totally separate browser tab, type in your prompt, copy the answer, and then awkwardly paste it back into whatever you were actually working on. Well, not anymore. We're talking about the absolute end of the dreaded window shuffle and all that tedious copy-pasting. Claude is now natively embedded directly inside Excel, PowerPoint, Word, and, this is currently in beta, Outlook. The philosophy here is actually pretty simple but totally revolutionary. You start in your inbox, you end in the final presentation deck, and Claude remembers absolutely everything in between. It literally follows your workflow directly. I want you to think about your typical morning. You log on and boom, there's this immediate frantic rush. It's 8 a.m., the coffee hasn't even kicked in yet, and a totally messy, unorganized project brief has just landed in your inbox. And of course, leadership needs a completed presentation like yesterday. Normally, tackling this means opening 4 different programs, losing track of your source data, and spending hours just trying to get the basic formatting right. It's a recipe for instant stress, right? So how do you turn that single chaotic email into a final, polished deliverable without completely losing your mind? Let's get into Section 2, Morning Routine, from Inbox to Deck. This brings us to our step-by-step tutorial. We're actually going to take that incredibly chaotic morning scenario and solve it, treating Claude basically as our multitasking coworker across the whole Microsoft suite. Let's walk through these exact steps in vivid detail. Step 1 begins right there in the Claude for Outlook beta. Instead of reading through 20 back-and-forth replies, you literally just ask Claude in one single prompt to triage your inbox. You just type, "Hey, summarize my unread emails and flag the high-priority client requests." You can even have it automatically find 30 minutes on the calendar with everyone on the thread. Then, Step 2. You open the project brief you just found right into Word. But you don't start from a blank page, no way. You tell Claude right there in the Word sidebar to start drafting a memo using your firm's specific template based entirely on that exact email chain. Moving on to Step 3, you jump into Excel. And honestly, here is where it gets absolutely amazing. You ask Claude to build a model based on the Word brief. Because Claude is sitting right there in the side panel, it actually reaches back, pulls the numbers from the Word document you were just looking at, and builds real functioning formulas across multiple tabs in Excel. Finally, Step 4. You open PowerPoint. You just point Claude at the updated analysis from Excel and ask it to turn that raw data into a steer codec using your company's exact template. Boom. It transforms raw data into branded visual charts. 4 apps, 1 completely seamless flow. Now, the actual magic behind this whole multi-app workflow is a really cool concept called context. To put it in layman's terms, context is basically a shared digital brain. Imagine Claude is literally standing right over your shoulder as you work. So if you're reading a vendor contract in Word and you highlight a specific clause, you can switch right over to an email draft in Outlook, and Claude still knows exactly which clause you were just looking at. Change a data point in Excel? The PowerPoint draft already knows about it. If you drop a PDF into the sidebar, it reads it right alongside whatever file you have open. It carries your thoughts flawlessly across the borders of all these different apps. Moving right along to Section 3, Context and Formatting, Staying on Brand. So as we move into actually generating these documents, we hit what is usually a massive roadblock for most professionals. The biggest fear out there is that AI is going to completely wreck your document formatting, right? And that ends up costing you hours of fix-up time. But Claude is specifically designed to rigorously respect your templates. It actually inherits your formatting rules automatically. If your company's slide master dictates a specific corporate blue, 24-point Arial font for headers, Claude uses it. If your Excel sheet uses a very specific VLOOKUP convention, Claude mimics it perfectly. You can tell it to build a highly complex financial table in Word, and it will align perfectly with the borders and the shading you already use, keeping all your numbering and lists entirely intact. You stay completely on brand and you don't even have to lift a finger. And look, this isn't just theoretical. Listen to Vivek Kulkarni, a US AI transformation leader. He specifically notes that Claude enables a seamless transition from rough ideas to polished, branded deliverables. When you're operating at an enterprise level, quality, formatting, and speed, they all matter equally. That end-to-end consistency isn't just a nice-to-have feature, it is a massive, quantifiable time saver. It means you actually get to spend your time doing deep strategic thinking instead of manually adjusting font sizes for an hour. Yeah, while we're on the subject of trusting a digital coworker, I definitely want to reassure you about how Claude operates with some serious guardrails in place. Because remember, Claude is an assistant. It is not an autopilot. In Word, every single edit Claude makes is done with tracked changes so you can review it line by line. In Excel, any modified cells are clearly highlighted so you instantly spot exactly where the new data is. And in Outlook, when Claude drafts a reply or calendar invite, it opens right up in the native Compose window. And it just waits. Nothing gets sent, nothing gets saved, and absolutely nothing goes out the door until you, the human final editor, explicitly click the button and say so. Let's jump to section 4, team skills, scaling your success. Think about all the time lost doing the exact same repetitive tasks manually, over and over again. Once you nail down that incredible morning routine we just talked about, you absolutely do not want to have to re-explain it to the AI from scratch tomorrow. Well, Claude allows you to take a highly successful process and save that exact prompt chain as a reusable skill. Let's say you create a style guide based on your CEO's past emails. You package that instruction setup, you save it as a skill in your shared workspace, and suddenly, every single junior assistant on your team can draft new emails that sound exactly like the boss with just one single click. It literally turns your individual brilliance into a shared, company-wide recipe that anyone can pull from across all 4 apps. And finally, Section 5, Security and Dictation, Enterprise Control. Up to this point, we've talked about some truly amazing productivity hacks. But let's be real, none of this matters at all if your IT department won't actually let you use it. So for the enterprise workers tuning in today, you'll be glad to know that Claude for Microsoft 365 is built with enterprise security right from the ground up. You do not have to connect through any risky consumer channels. You connect directly using the credentials from your preferred enterprise cloud platform, whether that happens to be Microsoft Foundry, Amazon Bedrock, or Google Cloud Vertex AI. And this is huge because it means your sensitive corporate data never, ever leaves your secure perimeter. It is absolutely not being used to train any public AI models. Everything stays completely locked down in the exact environment your IT team already trusts. Before we wrap up, I really want to leave you with a real look, no hands moment, because sometimes typing out complex instructions is actually the bottleneck itself. Well, the Claude sidebar includes a highly accurate dictation feature. Imagine pacing around your home office with a cup of coffee in hand. You open the sidebar in Excel, you click the microphone, and you simply say out loud, "Hey Claude, look at the Q3 revenue column, forecast Q4 based on a 5% growth rate, and then go ahead and draft an email to the executive team explaining the change." You are literally talking your way through complex spreadsheet modeling and high-level communication. You're managing these complex tasks completely hands-free while you just think out loud. It is incredible. So Claude for Microsoft 365 really isn't just about awkwardly adding a chatbot to Word. It's a comprehensive ecosystem. It carries your unique context from your very first early morning emails all the way to your final afternoon presentations, and it respects your precise formatting and your company's strict security every single step of the way. Ultimately, it means less stress, less window shuffling, and way more time for deep, meaningful work. So my final question to you is this. Think about your own messy morning routine. What repetitive, multi-op workflow are you going to tackle and turn into a reusable team skill first? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I highly encourage you to go try this entire ecosystem out for yourself. Catch you next time.